Hello, and welcome to the semifinals of this Grand Prix. We have Ash on Pipsqueak's Casino Scam combo deck versus Chef on Pipsqueak's Temur Flash. Chef's going to be on the play. I think this matchup heavily favors the Chef side. I watched exactly this matchup and commentated on it when Chef was playing against, or when Ash was playing against Pipsqueak, rather. Basically, it's can Ash find enough hand attack to fight through all of the interactive spells that Chef is going to have. And as you can see in Chef's hand, they have Portal Fracture and Cane Dancer already, as well as a Bounty to provide some pressure. So I think this game is going to really rely on Ash drawing multiple pieces of hand attack. We're going to see a turn 1 Seek from Ash. Chef might flash out the Panya turn 1 here. I think that there's no real reason not to. Your life total literally doesn't matter. So as long as you're not at 0, you're fine. Ash has no way of impacting their opponent's life total. This Seek Prophecy is just going to pick up a land, probably one of the fetches. Yeah, Flooded Depths goes to hand. So that's going to put Ash on all of their colors. The Exeunt is probably going to pick off this Panya in a second here, and Fair Trial might pick off the Bounty token, but it just depends on what happens. That's a few turns down the line. Ash is holding both combo pieces, Buy Time and All or Nothing, but what they're not holding is hand attack. So they're going to need to find some hand attack or multiple redundant copies of All or Nothing. One of the things that you can do in Chef's seat is hold up Counter Magic, let the Buy Time resolve, and then aim to counter the All or Nothing, because then your opponent just loses. I botched in my call against Pipsqueak that you can also just hold up Veilborn Meddler and another piece of removal or interaction for a last passage, which is the win con for Ash's deck, and you can counter it when they go for their very last play. So there are a lot of lines that Chef has to interact here. In hand, it's just the Portal Fracture and Cane Dancer, which is still, I think, an excellent line. Great reach to be able to have access to. And I think that Ash is going to be behind the ball. Chef points a burn spell at Ash's face, just a way to get some damage through. They're not doing anything else in the matchup, so whenever you have the window, that's probably what you want to be doing. Chef here is going to leave up 3 different spells: Bounty, Portal Fracture, and Roggers. Technically, Cane Dancer's up, but there's nothing to flash back, so no reason to cast it. Ash has drawn pretty well so far, hitting the lands that they needed, as well as a Consult, which is going to be able to pick up the best card in the top 4, because every single card in the deck is drawable with Consult. It's just Impulse. Bounty's going to make a 3-3, and that's going to put Ash on a bit of a clock. They still have a couple of turns, because the token needs to hit them 4 times, plus the Roggers hit, in order to win this game. But it does at least add a clock so that Ash can't just draw, go. And the second Bounty draw makes things a lot more awkward for Ash. They're going to have to take some proactive plays here in order to not just get beaten down by plants. Which I guess technically was true anyway, facing the Cane Dancer into Bounty. But just drawing another one speeds up the clock quite a bit, because now you can hold your Cane Dancer back for Portal Fracture. We're going to see what Ash picks up off of Consult. I'm expecting that they're looking for hand attack here. Curious. So they saw Flooded Depths, Consult, and Prying Inquiry, and picked up the Exeunt. So it looks like they're trying to play for a long game here. What they don't know is Chef's hand right now, but they're about to find it out because, they didn't cast Prying Inquiry. I guess they're going to wait for the hand attack until they're about ready to combo off, just to prevent their opponent from drawing counter magic. Chef picks up another Cane Dancer, which is theoretically good, but they need to find a 4th land, because right now they're hamstrung to just 1 spell per turn. Here Ash is going to fetch an island and just Exeunt the token. Can't counter that from Chef's side, so that token's just going to die. I think you probably should have done that in response to attacks. There are no main deck counter spells that Chef could have that counter your Exeunt, so it just saves you 3 life. Maybe they were hoping that they could catch another token. No, there's nothing bigger than that, so I think that was just a mistake. Here, Chef is just going to draw pass, didn't draw a 4th land. Ash theoretically could go for the buy time, but no real reason to do so. So now Ash is going to be able to fire off a Prying Inquiry. They're going to see a boatload of stuff. But I think that it's a pretty easy take here. There's only the one Portal Fracture plus the Cane Dancers. Maybe you take a Cane Dancer. Maybe you take the Portal Fracture. You have 2 Prying Inquiries. So it's possible that you want to take both Cane Dancers, preventing them from flashing back Bounty ever. Because if you put the Portal in the graveyard, it's just gonna stay there for a Cane Dancer to hit. Yeah. So you take 1 Cane Dancer here and create your clue. Now the question is Ash going to fire off another one? Probably not. There are a few reasons why you would want to not. One is that you're dead if you do. You literally lose the game. The other is that you might just want to leave up mana to crack the clue because you know that what you need to draw is a duress into... So actually Ash is just dead here. What they're going to need to do is crack the clue into exactly Exeunt. If they don't find it, this game's over. Cane Dancer gets to flashback Bounty. Bounty's going to make a 3/3. Chef attacks for 4, and then bolts for 3. This game ends. Especially with Ash not having another land to cast the buy time, that's going to make it so... Well, it made it so that Chef just wins with this line. And so we're going to go to game 2. Ash doesn't have a lot of exciting stuff to bring in. Chef gets to bring in some more counter spells and make this game a lot harder for Ash to win. I'm going to take a look at what Ash gets to bring in here. Let's see, Ash has the Garth as the first mate, 2 Dead Man's Party, which I think is probably too slow to bring in here. You just can't rely on it when you're facing so many burn spells. 2 Deathless Siege, which is probably more for the burn matchup than this one, although it could come into play here. I wouldn't be too surprised to see that come in. The Thought Blossoms come in for sure. Memento Moris are a no. Rest probably doesn't come in. Seal the Tomb probably doesn't come in against so many different counterspells. So definitely 2 Thought Blossoms, maybe 2 Deathless Siege. You probably want to cut some number of Exeunts. You probably want to cut some number of Fair Trials. Maybe you just cut 2 Exeunts, put in 2 Thought Blossoms, and call it good to go. Ash will be on the play this time. Their hand has Dead Man's Party and Exeunt, so I'm not really sure what they did in sideboarding. I guess we'll find out as the game goes on. They've also got Seek and Consult, which lets them start to really sculpt their hand. Plus 3 lands, all 3 colors. So they're in a pretty good spot to win this game if there's no interaction on Chef's side. Unfortunately, we know Chef has access to Spell Stutter out of the sideboard, Portal Fracture from the main, Veilborn Meddler from the main. So luckily they'll be playing on the back foot because they're on the draw, but it's still going to be a difficult game for Ash to fight through. Look at all this interaction. 5 pieces of interaction in hand for Chef, and the Tamiyo to get some drawing going. They are going to have to draw a 3rd land, but that's a when, not an if. Looking at the Seek Prophecy, Ash saw Torrent, All or Nothing, and Crystal Cavern. They took the All or Nothing because they have 3 colors of mana already in their hand. Ooh, Memento Mori did come in. That's interesting. So my guess is that Memento Mori came in specifically to catch Cane Dancer trying to flash back a counterspell. And we do see that Chef has Cane Dancer and 1 target for it in hand. So that might come into play this game. I think it's too slow to think that you're going to have the mana to do that, but there's a lot of removal that you do want to cut from your main deck, so Chef's just going to fetch a basic here. I don't actually know why you do that here. You don't really want to thin out your deck. You need to draw a 3rd land. So I think fetching the basic is a little loose. You're not casting anything. And it actually did give a window for Ash to resolve a spell. Plus, you don't know whether you're going to want to fetch, what color you're going to want to fetch. I guess one of your Wayfarer Shrines is always going to go for an island, but if you draw an island, maybe you want to get Forest Mountain. Ash is going to cast Consult on end step. Chef doesn't counter it, just to not leave shields down. So Dewdrop's is going to pick up a Flooded Depths and put All or Nothing, Last Passage, and Memento Mori on the bottom. You already have the All or Nothing in hand. A second one's not really that helpful. Last Passage is your win con that you don't want to have in hand at any point during the game until you've already won the game. Memento Mori you already have a copy of, so... The 4th land means that you can start casting your combo, which is pretty helpful. And Ash is going to try to cast a Dead Man's Party that's going to get Spell Stuttered. I think that's actually Well, I mean, it's not like great for Ash, but it's fine. Dead Man's Party is going to, on average, draw one card this game, maybe two. I don't think this game's going to go all that long. So getting a piece of interaction out of your opponent's hand can help. Chef has an awkward draw, though, with Still. I think you probably want to cast the Still. So this Wayfarer Shrine is now destined to be an island. The Cane Dancer draw is really awkward. Chef is just stalled out on lands here. Luckily, Ash doesn't have anything to do. So Chef has the opportunity to draw out of this, but it's not going to be particularly... I think this game is now about a 50-50. It just depends who draws best. I like the idea of Ash going for an all or nothing here, but I actually don't think that they should. Chef is moving to discard. You have to know that there's just a boatload of interaction in their hand. So I think that you shouldn't cast this all or nothing until they discard. Basically, they're losing a resource no matter what from Ash's perspective. So you can either trade 1-for-1 with resources or keep a resource in your hand. The mana doesn't really matter because, like I said, your opponent's losing a resource anyways. You can kind of trade up which resource you want to take, but knowing what's in Chef's hand, there's so many counter spells. Yeah, Ash is going to cast an all or nothing, is probably just going to get spell stuttered. I think there I would have just let Chef discard. This matchup is really about trading resources. Oh, is this going to be a Still from Chef? Okay, so that's going to be a Still. That puts a Still in the graveyard for Cane Dancer. It puts a clue on the board. I think that's probably the right call. It does mean that Chef doesn't have either red or green, which is going to strand one or the other of Frenzy or Tamiyo in hand for at least a bit. But I kind of want to see Ash main phase an all or nothing here. You know your opponent has counter spells and you need to draw stuff. Please don't cast the all or nothing, Ash. Please don't. Just let Chef discard here. You had your window when Chef was tapped out to resolve this all or nothing. You're playing against a deck of infinite counter spells. Yeah, okay, good. So Chef's not going to cast the all or nothing. Or Ash isn't going to cast the all or nothing. Chef discards a card. And Chef is down a resource for free. Ash is going to fetch upkeep. They have enough lands. The thinning effect isn't super relevant, but, you know, that's a Flooded Morass that isn't in the deck to be drawn, so... Well, now they draw Wayfarer Shrine. They do need to get something going eventually, but they're not under any pressure. And Chef is stuck on lands. This I like. So Chef cracks the clue. In response, all or nothing from Ash. They tapped wrong, I think. They should have left up Memento Mori. But this all or nothing's going to resolve. Ash is going to name 4, maybe? Just draw up to 7? Name 6? Okay. They're going to name 6. That's fine. They have stuff to discard. They're going to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're going to take 11 damage. Ow. But again, they're not under any pressure. Chef doesn't have red mana. Chef doesn't have green mana, so they can't even bounty. They can't burn Ash's face unless they draw. I probably would have done 1 or 2 cards fewer, taken a little less damage, but Ash is trying to win this game. Notably, Ash didn't draw any pieces of hand attack, but they did draw the Seal the Tomb, which I think is much better than Memento Mori for interrupting Cane Dancers. There's just a really big difference between leaving up 1 mana and leaving up 2 mana to interact with a Cane Dancer. Okay, Frostfire Geysers for Chef. They only drew 1 land in their 2 cards, and now these 2 Tamiyos are stranded in hand, but they are representing burn. So they're going to discard, they're going to pitch one of the 2 Tamiyos, that makes sense. I expect if they have to discard again, it'll be the other Tamiyo. Ash is going to get to leave up Thought Blossom and Seal the Tomb for basically the rest of the game. So all they need to find at this point is another all or nothing. And I think they'll be in good shape. Yeah, here's another Dead Man's Party. Chef is going to attempt to counter this. The issue with this is that there's a known Thought Blossom in Ash's hand. And Thought Blossoming a Still the Pandemonium is such bad news for Chef. But their tax counters just don't work anymore. So we're going to see Thought Blossom hit the Still and steal it. And I guess Chef isn't going to go for the Spell Stutter. No reason to. They're back down to 6 cards in hand, so they won't be discarding even if they draw something they can't cast. Dead Man's Party resolves. Ash steals the still. I think this game is probably wrapped up here for Ash. They're going to have to get very unlucky to lose. They just have so many resources and multiple axes on which to interact. I don't know if Chef's going to be expecting the Cane Dancer to fail. Chef draws a tapped green source, but it is a green source. So at least all of their spells will be online starting next turn. I just don't think that's going to be fast enough. Notably, Ash does have their one Crystal Wave as well, which is another counterspell. Ash is cracking a Wayfarer Shrine here to get a Swamp. Interesting. I think I probably get Mountain there in case you want a Crystal Wave and All or Nothing in the same turn. But I guess at this point it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Upkeep, Dead Man's Party is going to trigger. So chooses black, exiles 2 black cards from their graveyard, and then they're going to return All or Nothing to hand. And I think that doesn't quite just put Ash in a position where they win the game. They can buy time, counter the first counter spell, but Spell Stutter's still up to interact with... Oh no, All or Nothing can draw a land and the last passage. So Ash, I would have just gone for the win there. I don't think your opponent has a set of cards that allows them to win from that position. Oh no, that's not true. Buy time, he doesn't quite have enough mana. They don't quite have enough mana to counter and pay for this Spell Stutter tax. So this is the right play. Ash did the math. Unfortunately, Chef has drawn lands, but fortunately, Ash is still going to be able to interact on all axes. There's a Spell Stutter in the graveyard. Oh, Still's going to counter Tameo. Interesting. I don't like this line. I think that you let the Tameo resolve. I think that you let Chef try to scry and untap a land, and then you cast Buy Time in response. It looks like Ash is leaning very hard on hitting a piece of hand attack here, which is fair, but I would have liked to see the Seek Prophecy cast in that case. I think a Buy Time would be pretty troll here. Yeah, so we're not going to see that. We didn't even see the clue get cracked? Ash, what are you doing? I do not understand these lines. We have to see Seek here. Ash also skipped their Dead Man's trigger, is that true? They could have named blue and picked up a Seek Prophecy, I guess. Or picked up a Consult. Okay, so Ash is just main phasing Buy Time. Cane Dancer is going to enter the battlefield and try to flash back the Still. It's not going to work. I think this Still should be in the graveyard right now, but I don't think it actually matters. Yeah, it doesn't. The Memento Mori exiles the graveyard. Chef has nothing to do with the Cane Dancer. Buy Time resolves. We know there's an All or Nothing in hand, so we're going to game 3. Ash got lucky that game that Chef was hamstrung on mana. It's that simple. Ash's hand here is very bad. I think they're probably going to keep, and they're going to get Garth. Listen, this hand is rough. It folds to interaction in a bad way. You have no hand attack. You are going to get to play Garth on 3. I just don't even know how good that's going to be. I guess we'll find out, because we are going to hit that point in the game. And still can't counter Garth, and Chef doesn't have a Portal Fracture. What Chef does have is 4 pieces of interaction, including a Spell Stutter for anything early, Still for literally anything other than Garth, and Cane Dancer to flashback Still. Now we know Ash has the Memento Mori to interact with the Cane Dancer, but you have to get to a point where you have enough mana to do that, and you can't rely on Chef just having no mana this game. But what Chef doesn't have is a lot of pressure. The Veilborn Meddler can be pressure. It can get sacked by the Memento Mori. So we're going to have to see how this game plays out. I think there are going to be some very interesting lines to take. Chef shocks a fetch and passes the turn. Ash is going to just draw a card, draws a seal. That's a better way to interact with Cane Dancer, and is actually likely to gut a Still from Chef's hand, which is very interesting. Okay, Veilborn Meddler comes down. I wonder if Ash is just going to instantaneously Memento Mori this, now that they have to seal the tomb. I think I like that line. Just keep the pressure off. This probably goes to get a Flooded Depths, I would guess. Flooded Morass. Yeah, that's what I meant. Alright, come on, Ash. Memento Mori, sack the Veilborn Meddler. There's no value in letting Chef untap with this. Yeah, I love this. So this keeps the pressure off in a big way. I've seen Veilborn Meddlers, you probably have too. that hit 5/5 or 6/6 after an interaction war. This prevents that from happening, and it gives Ash multiple turns to draw into more good interaction. Chef draws another Cane Dancer, which is funny. The only Cane Dancer target Chef has right now is the Stills, but we know that Ash has this Seal the Tomb, and none of these cards do anything against Garth. So Ash is going to get to land this Garth. Garth is going to get to do whatever it is that Garth does, and it might put Chef in a kind of awkward position, especially if Garth starts to hit things like Consult the Dewdrops or Duress or Seek Prophecy. This first mate could prove to be very handy in this game. Notably, your starting deck contains no creature cards, but not necessarily just instant sorceries and lands. So the Dead Man's parties are totally fine with Garth. Garth hits the battlefield. There is literally nothing Chef can do here. Their graveyard is 2 lands and Availborn Meddler, nothing to flashback with Cane Dancer. Still can't hit it, this says non-creature. Spellstutter can't hit it, this says non-creature. Chef just says nice. Garth resolves. I like Chef saying nice as if they didn't know that Garth was in hand. But I think this puts Ash in a pretty good position here. Chef's cards don't interact on the right axis right now. Fetching the Forest means they can't leave up double Still. The Portal Fracture drawn a turn too late means they're just going to have to pass and let Garth hit them. And there's a Duress. A beautiful draw here. That's going to trigger Garth's Prowess. We're going to maybe see Chef counter this with a Still. Maybe we're just going to let it resolve and leave up Still for something bigger. Yeah, we're just going to let it resolve. So now Ash knows that they can take the Still and then seal the tomb to get the other Still out of Chef's hand at some point, which is an interesting thing to have access to. Of course, you can't do that while Chef can cast the Still, but if they go for a Cane Dancer at some point, you can really, really get them. Chef says, look at my friend the Portal Fracture that Chef drew this turn and didn't have to cast Garth, but right on time to not be able to counter the Duress. Ash is going to take the Portal Fracture. That's probably the right call. You can stick your opponent in weird situations with the Still, especially because they only have 2 blue sources, so they can't cast it and a Spellstutter in the same turn. And if they draw another blue source, they still can't cast 2 Stills in the same turn. Garth is going to crack in for 3 against Chef's nothing. Now, Cane Dancer can hit the Portal Fracture now, which is worth knowing, but we know that there's a Seal the Tomb for that. Ash gets the attack trigger, looks at the top card of the library, doesn't cast anything with Garth. For those who aren't familiar, whenever Garth attacks, you look at the top card of your library. If it's an instant or sorcery card, you may cast it. Ash saw something that wasn't an instant or sorcery, or an instant or sorcery that they didn't want to cast, and just chose not to cast anything. So Chef draws a Bounty, which is actually a pretty good draw here. It means these Cane Dancers can be 3/3s at worst. Bounty will probably get flashed in a bit here, but Ash still has this active Garth. And Garth notably has 4 toughness, which means that the Bounty token can't cleanly eat it. So we're going to see an attack trigger here. We note that Ash drew a land last turn, which meant that they couldn't have cast it off of Garth. No Bounty here for Chef because they just lose if they tap out. And I think Ash has to let this resolve. You can't cast the buy time into a Spellstutter. You'll have 6 mana next turn, so you can pay for Spellstutter if Chef tries to proactively cast another Cane Dancer into Bounty, or another Bounty if they draw one. And you know the Spellstutter's in hand. You've seen it. Tamiyo is actually a pretty bad draw here for Chef. It's a good card in general, but just trying to land a Tamiyo and untap a land is not the way here. I think this just loses the game for Chef, because you can +1, you can untap an island, but then next turn, oh yeah, so Ash is just going to buy time here. Tamiyo gets to untap the Frostfire Geysers or the island, leave up Spellstutter, but next turn, Ash plays a land, casts All or Nothing. Chef's 1 Spellstutter can't counter the All or Nothing because Ash has the land in hand. Then Ash can just move to their actual turn and untap and win the game. So I think if you're Chef there, playing the Tamiyo is just a big mistake. I guess you are hamstrung so badly on mana that you're trying to dig your way into lands while your opponent might not have the combo, but we knew that Ash had the combo. Chef just didn't. And we knew that Ash has the 6th land to protect it, and the 7th too. Now, you probably should know that your opponent has the 6th land here because they had 2 Garth triggers that missed. So you have to expect that at least one of those was a land, and probably both. Oh, Ash, what? I think Ash is now currently realizing that they missed a win. Okay, that is incredibly lucky. So Ash can't pay. Yes. Okay, so ignore what I've been saying. Ash can't pay the life to Shock in the Flooded Depths. And they can't pay the life to search with Wayfarer's Shrine. Which means that I think Chef wins. Ash made a huge blunder not cracking the Wayfarer's Shrine before casting the buy time. Oh no, okay. Okay, so I'm catching myself up. You get to catch up with me. So here's what happened. Ash should have cracked the Wayfarer's Shrine before casting the buy time. Or at least with buy time on the stack. Because once they hit 0 life, they cannot pay life anymore. They have no life to pay. That's why they didn't shock in Flooded Depths this turn, because that requires you to pay 2 life that Ash doesn't have. However, Ash has gotten lucky to hit the all or nothing off the top. So Spellstutter's going to counter this all or nothing. But now Ash is going to get to untap, crack the Flooded Depths on their actual turn. Then they can all or nothing, draw naturally into another land that they can play untapped, and their Last Passage, and then use their final 2 mana to play Last Passage and win the game. So since Ash cast buy time on Chef's end step, Ash gets their extra turn and then moves to their actual turn. And Chef is seemingly confused about what just happened. Now they're caught up. But that means that Ash gets bailed out here by hitting that all or nothing off the top. They draw for turn. They play their untapped Murmuring Falls. Chef is tapped out, so Ash gets to fetch. They have 6 mana exactly that they can spend. There's 4 of it for all or nothing, and that's going to end the game. Ash names 42, draws 42 cards, takes 1 billion damage, but the game ends. And so that puts Ash into the finals with Casino Scam. Ash takes it 2-1. Chef got really stuck on mana those games, which is unfortunate. You really don't like seeing someone lose just because they couldn't play their spells. But, I mean, that's what happens when you play a kind of small mana base, is you sometimes just don't draw your lands. I think that both of these decks are pretty interesting. They both interact almost entirely on your opponent's turn, which is just the way Pipsqueak intended. And this was a great match that puts Ash into the finals, where they'll be playing either against Pipsqueak on Temur Flash, or against McGuffin on Heggy Breakfag, which is a 1-drop combo deck. Yeah, Ash says 2 top decks in a row after a mistake. Well, thank you guys for watching, and I will be back, most likely, to cover the finals, maybe with Pipsqueak and Dodger. We will see. Either way, I will catch you guys later.